Good evening and welcome to the May Equipped Live event. It seems like we were just here not long ago. Time does fly. My name is Jackie and I will be walking through this next 15 or 20 minutes or so with Greg Winter on the topic, the economy is changing quickly. How is the IFMC preparing and how can you better prepare yourself? So in order to dig into that, we're going to get Greg live on the screen. Hi, Greg.
Hello, Jackie. Hello, everyone.
Thanks again for joining us this month. You're aware of the topic, but I think it's a little vague to say things or the economy is changing quickly. So first, I just want to start out with when we say the economy is changing quickly, can you kind of be a little bit more specific as to what's changing as it relates to this conversation?
Sure. Of course, in any economy, there are many things that are changing. There are many uncertainties, and so we can't accurately predict exactly how things are going to turn out. But there are really four things that I'm paying particular attention to here now, and that is the global trend of global conflict approximately every 50 years. And I think that's a pretty important set of events. The other are the financial conditions that the U.S. is in. Another one are green initiatives. And then the fourth is artificial intelligence. And if I go back and talk just a little bit more about the big global trends with war, as in general, approximately every 50 years, we end up with global conflict. We've recently been through a couple decades of almost unprecedented peace, and now we're starting to see activities between Russia and Ukraine, China and Taiwan, with North Korea, with Iran, and I think most of us would agree that has a likelihood of escalating into something much bigger. And if you look at the trends, the big global trends, that tends to be fitting right in with what one would expect. So while we don't, that's from a humanitarian perspective, war is absolutely terrible, and nobody wants to see that. From a manufacturing perspective, there's almost a double benefit to that, and that is that you first have to manufacture the things that are designed to destroy other things, and once they're destroyed, you end up either repairing or replacing those items. Manufacturing tends to do fairly well during war, and again, not that anybody's wishing for that, but that's how it works. So that's, I guess, if you can call that a positive, I view that as something to be aware of and be ready for. With the financial conditions in the U.S., once again, if you look at global trends over long term, the U.S. is following some pretty predictable patterns. Again, not something that we would wish for, but typically what happens is, in a free market like the U.S., when there are difficult times, some companies end up going bankrupt, some end up in financial distress. That causes disruptions in the supply chain. Now you've got potential customers out looking for new vendors, and that presents an opportunity a lot of times with customers that you may have been struggling to get your foot in the door, maybe couldn't get your foot in the door, but now they're out looking for new vendors. And so it's kind of a unique opportunity to introduce yourself to some new customers. And if we respond rapidly, we do what we say we're going to do, then we have a real chance to build long-term relationships with those customers. And that's what's happened with us numerous times in the past, and I expect that something similar will happen this time. With the green initiatives, Again, whether you agree or don't agree with global warming and all that, the fact of the matter is governments all over the world are acting as though that's real. They're heavily supporting green initiatives, and so there's lots of manufacturing going on already and a lot more in the planning stages. So that's positive. Artificial intelligence has the likelihood of dramatically improving productivity. As long as we're growing rapidly, that'll minimize the impact on any of the legal and accounting and administrative folks that are going to be most affected by that. But worldwide, US-wide in particular, there are people that are going to need to be looking for other careers. I mean, that is going to have an impact. So those are the four things: big global trends with war, financial conditions, green initiatives, artificial intelligence.
All right. Well, that definitely helps give us some boundaries around the topic that we're talking about today. So considering the IFMC and these kind of four areas, what is the IFMC doing to prepare for these rapid changes?
Well, you just used the key word, Jackie, and that is rapid change. And so with rapid change, we need to stay really agile and be able to adapt rapidly. And so one of the things that I think we talked about here, maybe last Equip Live, maybe it was another one, but we talked about teams of 7 and talked about leadership development. And a big driver behind that is the intention to stay agile and be able to respond quickly. And like I already said, that during tough times, opportunities come along that otherwise you might not get. But also, if you look at just how products are developed, how products are introduced into the markets today, the adoption cycle is increasingly fast. And so we need to be quick about what we're doing. And so that, those are the key things that we're focused on. One of the other really important ones is I'm encouraging everyone to really stay alert for the next standard conveyor opportunity. And I think I talked about the standard conveyor story in a past Equip Live, but I'll go over that again real quick. Back in the early 80s, a company called Standard Conveyor ended up going out on strike. And turns out Besser Company had been buying conveyor from Standard. Gary Stevens' father or grandfather, George Stevens, was in purchasing there. George called us up, was interested in buying some conveyor, and he said, look, I know you can't be competitive, but I need it, so let's see if we can do something. Well, we ended up not only doing those first conveyors, but then figuring out that we could actually do pretty well with that financially. And so that really was the introduction for Omni into the conveyor business. And once we figured that out, we very aggressively ended up going after all of Standard Conveyor's other customers, which that was actually Paul Diamond's first role when he joined the company, was to go after those Standard Conveyor customers. And we ended up with a real boost for Omni. So we definitely want to stay alert for those kind of opportunities. Of course, the other stuff, Jackie, that I know you're aware of, ESI has also been very involved with the leadership development, with various tuition reimbursement programs, et cetera. And more recently has been very supportive of the Economic Generator Network, which Economic Generator Network is a separate nonprofit, not part of the IFMC, but ESI has been very supportive of that. One of the programs that Economic Generator Network has is Center for Competency Development. Center for Competency Development is kind of right in the name. It's intended to develop competencies. So essentially, it's a school intended to do that. A few of the first cohort have, I don't know if they're actually through yet or if they're in the process of going through, but that's getting warmed up. And now we actually hired an executive director for that, Tom Berryman, and Tom was with the Alpena Public School Systems and is very competent to lead that effort. So that Center for Competency Development is there not only for IFMC employees, but for anyone, and again, to develop competencies that are aligned with the needs and the changing needs of fast-growing employers. We've also, Economic Generator Network has also, and ESI has supported, the Creating Entrepreneurial Opportunities program for high school kids. And so that's in the real early stages of development, but that's another initiative that is going on that ESI has supported.
So a couple things before we get to our last question. I think the standard conveyor story, even if you have told it before, I think it's incredibly valuable to tell again. Different ears listening, and I just think that it's good for everybody to hear that story. Second, if people pay attention to their Equipped newsletter, the June edition that'll be coming out, there will be a update on the center, and it'll talk about whether folks are all the way through the program and what kinds of training that has been done. So if people want more information on that, that's a great place. And that leads us to our third question. So it's really not just an employer's responsibility. So for people that work within the IFMC, it's not just the IFMC or their direct employer's responsibility to prepare them for these changes that are happening. So what types of things, or what would you tell the people from within the IFMC that they should be doing or that they can do to better prepare themselves for these rapid changes?
Well, yeah, if we start out with, again, go all the way back to the conditions that exist, and we already talked about the need to rapidly adapt and adjust, then there's a tremendous need for what are called highly adaptable high achievers. And excuse me, so I talked a little bit about customers needing suppliers that can adapt rapidly. Well, guess what? Companies are made up of team members, and so the team is the company. And so the team really needs to be highly adaptable. The high achiever part of it really is because high achievers tend to get to the result faster. And so if you've got highly adaptable folks that are striving really hard to achieve whatever they do, that's the high achiever part. So there's a need for highly adaptable high achievers. How do you get there? How do you enhance that even more if you are one? Well, we've talked about the hedgehog concept and the three overlapping circles of what a person is passionate about, what a person is best in the world at, and what economic opportunities exist. And of course, you want to focus on where that overlap is. And so the thing that I would be encouraging everyone to do is dedicate to prepare themselves for what's coming down the pike. I would encourage everyone to dedicate 30 minutes a day to just think about and understand what those opportunities are, what you really are passionate about, what you're best in the world at. And if you already know that and you already understand that, then start working on improving that. And you can improve that through studying, through doing, through talking to your leader, and trying to find other opportunities that might be available in case things get sideways. And I think the return on investment for that is tremendous. I mean, there's going to be tremendous opportunities for the folks that do invest in themselves in that way.
I absolutely agree with that. I'm a big proponent of personal responsibility, and you're going to get out of it what you put into it. So I totally appreciate that comment. Well, we are at the end of our time. Do you have any final comments on this topic?
Well, we're all blessed with 168 hours in a week. Most of us are working at our occupation about 25% of the time. So that leaves about 3/4 of the hours available for other things, which could include self-improvement. And so I would really, really reiterate, at a minimum, spending 30 minutes a day investing in yourself, trying to figure out how you increase that overlap in the hedgehog. And I'd also encourage everyone to ask themselves, if they're not willing to invest that in themselves, is it reasonable to expect that anyone else would invest that in them?
Great point. Absolutely. Well, Greg, thank you so much for your time once again. Everybody who's attending, thank you so much for attending this evening. I know the weather's pretty nice out there, so we appreciate that you spent this time with us. So, Greg, thank you. If you want to give a final message to the folks online.
Just thank you for causing us to be where we're at economically and the way the companies are thriving, and have a good evening.
All right. Thank you, and goodbye, everybody.